Many think the motives behind Sheldon J Plankton's obsession with the Krabby Patty Secret Formula is that of just cunning personality mixed with jealousy towards Mr. Krabs himself. Some even think Plankton has small man syndrome, pent-up rage, and a feeling of inadequacy based on his small size. And yes, there is some validity to these points, but most aren't aware of the core truth behind all of this pent-up anger Plankton developed over the years. It actually stems from a hidden aspect of Plankton's past, and that's exactly what we're going to reveal today. Make sure to stay until the end because you're not going to want to miss the pivotal moment in Plankton's life that transformed him from one of Mr. Krabs' best friends to one of his greatest foes. The big question: what caused Plankton to dedicate his life to taking down the Krusty Krab and stealing the Krabby Patty Secret Formula? The answer lies in the relationship between Mr. Krabs and Plankton. We all know the two hate each other now, but as many know, it wasn't always that way. The episode Friend or Foe revealed to fans that Mr. Krabs and Plankton were, in fact, friends at one point and even shared the same birthday. We also learned that Sheldon and Eugene both grew up poor, and because of that, nobody in their class hung out with them. Well, unless you count their arch nemesis, Billy, a high school bully who rallied his gang of friends to torment Sheldon and Eugene. Their lack of popularity and rough start really solidified their friendship, though. The two were so close that when Mr. Krabs found his first penny at the carnival, he bought Plankton a balloon with it. They really only had each other as kids at the end of the day, and their friendship did start out on a healthy and solid foundation. But the ocean turned out to be a dog-eat-dog world when burgers became involved, and the two had their first taste of this competition when they pooled their money together to buy a burger from the only burger place in town, Stinky's Burger. Stinky managed to keep his burger joint alive despite it being located in the dump and having a terrible reputation for its food. It also turned out to be the hangout spot for Billy and his gang, which didn't make Plankton and Krabs getting a burger any easier. The proprietor of Stinky's Burgers, Stinky, was just as ignorant as the duo's classmates, and when the two showed up hoping to try their first burger, his response was not very customer friendly. He called them freaks and claimed that serving people like them would be bad for his business, so he refused to sell them anything. That same night, Krabs and Plankton went to their secret hideout and decided to create their own burger recipe to sell so they'd finally be respected. But respect didn't come easy for either of them, because unlike Stinky, these two were considered outcasts. Not only that, they couldn't come up with a recipe for a good tasting burger, and no one wanted to eat a burger cooked by two people that they didn't like, especially when they could get a perfectly bad burger from Stinky's. Honestly, had they just given up there, Krabs and Plankton probably would have remained friends. But that's not how it worked out though. Stinky got arrested because his restaurant had numerous health code violations, and when the information reached Krabs and Plankton, the two jumped on Stinky's bad misfortunes and opened up their own restaurant, Krabbs Burgers, right over the former Stinky's Burgers. And lucky for them, Krabbs Burgers was a huge hit. Granted, there wasn't any other competition in town, but still, it was a massive win for both of them. That is, until that win turned into a massive loss for the pair. Though the two have very different stories about how the fight began, Plankton and Krabs ended up fighting over their current patty formula for Krabbs Burgers. According to Plankton's side of the story, his partner became money hungry after seeing moderate success. Sheldon described it as Mr. Krabs wanting to take all of the money that the other children had. Plankton disagreed and felt their restaurant should have been prioritizing customer satisfaction. And in his version of the story, this is when the two began to fight. Eugene told his side a bit differently though, and according to him, Plankton was the aggressor. He claimed that Plankton went on a power trip as soon as their restaurant started becoming semi-successful. According to Krabs, Plankton allegedly believed that if you control the stomach, you control the mind, and Plankton's goal became to rule the minds of all the other kids. In this version of the story, it was Krabs who disagreed and fought for customer satisfaction. Both sides of the story turned out to be false though, and thanks to Karen, who was installed by Plankton as the security system for Krabbs Burgers, she caught their actual fight on camera. Karen revealed that Plankton and Mr. Krabs were both liars and explained that their restaurant was actually not doing well at all. In reality, they didn't have any customers. In fact, it wasn't until Old Man Jenkins gave in that the two made their first sale, but the blessing quickly turned into a tragedy when Old Man Jenkins took a single bite of the burger and passed out. The local papers ran with the story and claimed that Jenkins was knocked out by the horrid taste of their Krab patty, causing Mr. Krabs and Plankton to immediately turn on each other, accusing each other of tainting the burger. While fighting over the formula, things got physical, and the patty formula ripped into two pieces. Plankton only received a single ingredient, a pinch of chum. Plankton ended up storming out and starting his own competing restaurant, which we all know as the infamous Chum Bucket. What Plankton didn't realize, however, was that during their fight, the two had knocked random ingredients into the patty batter, which ended up becoming the recipe for the Krabby Patty. And with the creation of the Krabby Patty came the downfall of Plankton's sanity and the start of his all-consuming obsession. This wasn't despite both his and Karen's best efforts, though. Karen even tricked Plankton into thinking that he had a solitary regular customer that actually enjoyed his food. In the episode Plankton's Regular, we met Nat. Karen hired him to come into the chum bucket and pretend to like the chum sticks. We also saw how important success was to Plankton in that episode. When he learned that he didn't actually have a customer, he cried his eyes out. This level of failure fueled Plankton but ended up leading him down the wrong pathway. If he had spent more of his time just working toward getting a better recipe for himself and cleaned up his restaurant a bit, he might have seen an improved customer base. But instead, his anger only fueled his need for revenge. The only two things that Plankton was shown practically longing for throughout the series were the Krabby Patty Secret Formula and for his rival's restaurant to fail.
I wish I could be successful like Mr. Krabs.
This lack of success is inevitably what led Plankton to design some of the most elaborate heists ever, which ultimately led to his demise. In the episode SpongeBob's Last Stand, Plankton went as far as constructing a highway that ran right through jellyfish fields and then over top of the Krusty Krab. The entire plan was to make it more convenient for customers to come to his restaurant while also helping them avoid his rivals. The episode Plankton's Army showed Plankton recruiting his entire hillbilly family to form a massive Plankton army to finally take down the Krusty Krab. It actually might have been the closest Plankton ever got to successfully stealing the formula itself. At one point, Plankton physically had his hands on what he thought was the formula. Unfortunately, Mr. Krabs anticipated something like that happening and replaced the Krabby Patty formula with a fake. Each failure only seemed to fuel his anger and vengeful attempts, leading fans to even question Plankton's feeble efforts. One fan even wrote to Steven Hillenburg wondering why Plankton chose to stay in the restaurant business, especially since Plankton was a computer genius. It would have made more sense for him to open up a tech shop where he could sell computers and such.
What a brilliant idea! Your parents must have been like part computers.
The creator actually responded to this question by saying that Plankton never went that route solely because it never crossed his mind. His obsession wouldn't let it. If that doesn't illustrate Plankton's mania, no other episode will. Mr. Krabs being the one to get the Krabby Patty secret formula was detrimental to Plankton's success. Not because Plankton necessarily needed the formula itself, but because it fueled an unhealthy vengeance that blinded him from productive steps to create a better formula and restaurant than his rival. Had Mr. Krabs been in Plankton's shoes and hadn't received the formula, he might have even met the same fate. Do you think there was a single event in Plankton's backstory that ultimately led to his demise? Let us know in the comments below.
Mr. Krabs gets to eat real food. Just look at his daughter.